Overthinking is a silent trap. It might seem productive, but in reality, it's one of the biggest thieves of time and energy. How many opportunities have slipped away because you spent too much time analyzing? How many nights have been lost, reliving the past or trying to predict the future? The subconscious mind never stops. It recycles ideas, repeats worries, and creates scenarios that will never happen. But what if I told you there's a simple way to break that cycle? A strategy that can bring instant mental clarity and completely change the way you handle your thoughts. What nobody tells you is that overthinking isn't a sign of intelligence. It's a sign of being blocked. The more you think, the less you do, and less action means more doubts, more insecurity, more fear. The good news? You don't have to be a hostage to your own mind. There's a practical way to reprogram this pattern and finally take control of your thoughts. In this video, you'll discover how your mind really works, why you overthink, and more importantly, how to escape that mental labyrinth. We're going to explore simple yet extremely effective techniques to train your mind to focus on the present, eliminate unnecessary noise, and act with greater confidence. If you've ever felt trapped in a loop of thoughts that seem endless, this content is for you. And by the end, you'll realize that mental clarity isn't something hard or unattainable. You just need to learn how to tap into the power that already exists within you. Ready? Then let's get started. Thinking is part of human nature. From the moment we open our eyes in the morning, our subconscious mind is already at work, processing information, memories, plans, and worries. The problem isn't thinking itself, but the excess of thoughts that drains our energy and traps us in endless mental spirals. Society has conditioned us to believe that overthinking is a flaw, a weakness, something we must control at all costs. But is that view really correct? Or is there a smarter way to use our thoughts to our advantage? Thought can be both a springboard to prosperity and a trap that keeps us stuck. Who hasn't been paralyzed in the face of a decision, imagining 1,000 scenarios, weighing risks, and ultimately doing nothing? The subconscious mind responds to patterns, and if we feed it a cycle of doubts and fears, it only gets stronger. It's like training a muscle. The more we repeat a behavior, the more automatic it becomes. The issue isn't thinking itself, but what we do with those thoughts. Are we using our mind to create or merely to sabotage ourselves? The law of attraction teaches us that what we focus on expands. If we feed on thoughts of scarcity, difficulties, and limitations, we'll attract more of that into our reality. On the other hand, if we learn to direct our thinking in a productive way, we can transform our relationship with money, challenges, and even our own identity. Many successful people have developed the habit of using their mental energy to visualize solutions rather than problems. But how do we do that in practice? One simple strategy is to observe your own thoughts as if you were an audience member. Imagine your mind is like a movie screen and your thoughts are just projections. You can choose which scenes to watch and which ones to ignore. Another effective technique is to immediately replace a negative thought with a positive one. For example, instead of thinking, "I'll never be able to make money this way," reframe it to, "I'm learning how to attract prosperity into my life." Small shifts in perspective can have a huge impact. The key to mastering your thoughts isn't to eliminate them, but to learn how to control them. Overthinking can be a sign that we're trying to compensate for a lack of action, and that's where a new challenge comes in. How do we balance reason and emotion so that our mind works in our favor? Thought isn't just an abstract phenomenon, it's something deeply connected to the body's biology. Every idea that pops into our mind triggers a chemical reaction, activating hormones, influencing the nervous system, and even altering our heartbeats. Have you ever noticed how, when you recall a tense moment, your body reacts as if you're reliving the experience? That's because the subconscious mind doesn't distinguish between what's real and what's imagined. If our thoughts affect our body in this way, imagine the impact they have on our life. The brain is an amazing organ, but it doesn't work alone. The heart, for instance, has its own neural network, capable of processing information and influencing our emotional state. When we feel fear or anxiety, our heart races and our body goes into alert mode. This can be useful in real danger, but when that state becomes chronic, the whole system suffers. Digestive issues, insomnia, fatigue. All of this can be the result of a mind that never rests. It's no coincidence that stress takes such a toll on our health. Prosperity and money, like any other form of abundance, flow better when the body is in balance. If the mind is overloaded with negative thoughts, the body responds with tension and resistance. That's why many people face financial difficulties. Not because they lack ability, but because they're always in a state of internal blockage. The body becomes a reflection of the mind, and the way we think defines how we feel, and consequently, how we act. Want a practical example? Techniques like mindful breathing help interrupt negative thought patterns. One simple exercise is the 4-7-8 breathing technique. Inhale through your nose, counting to 4, hold for 7 seconds, and exhale slowly through your mouth for 8 seconds. This method calms the nervous system and allows the mind to slow down. Another technique is guided meditation, which teaches you to observe your thoughts without getting attached to them. Small habits like these can transform the way your mind and body interact. Understanding this connection between the mind and biology is essential for transforming internal patterns. After all, if our thoughts affect our body, we can also use them to create more productive mental states aligned with what we desire. And that brings us to the next point. How can we balance reason and emotion so that we can make decisions with greater clarity? Many people believe that reason and emotion are opposing forces, as if one cancels out the other. But the truth is, both need to work together for the mind to function fully. The heart, for example, has sensory neurons that communicate directly with the brain, influencing our reactions and decisions. Have you ever noticed how, in moments of nervousness, your heart races even before you understand what you're feeling? That's because there's a real connection between these systems, and learning to balance them can completely change the way we deal with repetitive thoughts. The subconscious mind responds to both logic and emotion. If someone believes that money is hard to make, that belief wasn't formed solely on rational data, but on past emotional experiences. Maybe they saw their parents struggle financially or experienced failure in a pursuit of prosperity. The problem is that these memories become filters that distort reality. Reason might say, there are plenty of opportunities to get rich, but if emotion feels fear or scarcity, action doesn't follow. This misalignment between mind and heart keeps many people trapped in cycles of self-sabotage. The law of attraction teaches us that what we feel has as much influence as what we think. People who achieve financial success not only believe in their ability to prosper, but also feel comfortable with the idea of abundance. That's why it's not enough to just change your thoughts. You need to reprogram the emotional relationship you have with money, work, and opportunities. For instance, those who feel guilty about making money end up repelling prosperity without even realizing it. Conversely, those who cultivate a positive emotion about wealth naturally open themselves up to new possibilities. A practical way to balance reason and emotion is the exercise of reflective writing. Grab a piece of paper and divide it into 2 columns. On one side, write down your rational thoughts about a goal. On the other, note what you feel about it. If there's a conflict, for example, thinking, I want financial freedom, but feeling I'm not good with money, then that misalignment needs to be resolved. The secret is to adjust both your thoughts and your emotions so they point in the same direction. When the mind and heart work together, we make decisions with greater clarity and act with confidence. This frees us from cycles of worry and allows us to focus on what really matters. And speaking of that, are we truly living in the present, or are we stuck in patterns of the past? The human mind has an incredible talent for reliving the past. How many times have you found yourself thinking about something that happened years ago, feeling the same emotions as if you were living it all over again? This happens because the subconscious mind doesn't differentiate between what's real and what's imagined. For it, remembering is the same as reliving. And the worst part, the more we cling to these memories, the more we condition our brain to repeat the same patterns. That's why so many people are stuck with outdated fears and beliefs, carrying the weight of stories that no longer make sense for their current lives. Overthinking the past generates anxiety because it prevents us from seeing the present clearly. And when we're not living in the now, we end up sabotaging our own progress. For instance, someone who has faced financial difficulties might carry an unconscious fear of losing money, even if they're in a much better situation today. That person continues to act based on a scenario that no longer exists, blocking new opportunities. Prosperity requires presence, and being mentally stuck in the past is one of the biggest barriers to growth. The law of attraction works in the present. If you want to change your reality, you need to bring your energy into the now. A simple technique for this is the exercise of active gratitude. Every day, write down 3 things you're grateful for in the present moment. But it's not enough just to list them. Genuinely feel that gratitude. This reprograms your mind to focus on what's working instead of clinging to what's already past. Small habits like this help train your brain to break free from the cycle of past worries and create a more receptive mental state for new opportunities. Another strategy is to use mindful breathing. When you feel your mind drifting to the past or projecting fears about the future, pause for a moment and focus on your breath. Inhale deeply, hold for a few seconds, and exhale slowly. This brings your awareness back to the present and interrupts negative thought patterns. It may sound simple, but few practice it, and those who do notice a profound change in how they handle daily challenges. Living in the present doesn't mean ignoring the past. It means using it as a lesson without letting it define your future. After all, what's the point of having so many thoughts if they don't help you take action? And that's exactly what we'll talk about next: the importance of action. Overthinking without taking action is like trying to cross a river by planning every detail but never taking the first step. The subconscious mind can be a powerful ally, but if we don't turn thoughts into movement, we end up stuck in a cycle of paralysis. Who hasn't spent hours analyzing a problem, creating scenarios, anticipating difficulties, and in the end, doing nothing? Overthinking without action gives us a false sense of productivity, but in practice, it's like running on a treadmill: lots of effort, zero progress. Prosperity doesn't come to those who just wish for it. It comes to those who take action. Money, opportunities, and life-changing shifts are attracted by movement. The law of attraction does work, but it's not enough to just visualize. It's essential to take the necessary steps. Imagine someone who wants to start a business but spends years studying, planning, and fine-tuning every detail without ever launching anything. Preparation is important, but only execution brings results. Often it's better to start imperfectly than to never start at all. One trick to beat procrastination is the 5-second rule, created by Mel Robbins. It works like this: when you feel that hesitation before acting, count down mentally from 5 to 1 and move before your mind comes up with excuses. This interrupts the cycle of self-sabotage and gets your body moving before overthinking takes control. Another useful technique is the 2-minute rule. If something can be done in less than 2 minutes, do it immediately. Small steps build momentum, and momentum generates transformation. Another common mistake is waiting until you feel motivated to act. The truth is, motivation doesn't come before action. It comes after you begin. If you want to improve your relationship with money, for example, don't wait for the perfect moment to invest or start a business. Start now, even if it's just small steps, like reading about finance, setting up an emergency fund, or testing out an extra source of income. Mental inertia disappears when the body gets moving. Those who take action learn faster, adjust along the way, and build something real. And taking action doesn't just mean doing something, it means doing it with purpose. Because in the end, it's no use being busy all the time if you don't know where you're headed. And that's exactly what we'll talk about next. Identity and purpose. Many people spend their lives trying to fit into molds that weren't made for them. From an early age, we learn to shape our choices to please others, parents, teachers, bosses, friends. But the truth is, living to meet external expectations takes us further away from who we truly are. And the price of that is high. Dissatisfaction, lack of motivation, anxiety, and a constant feeling that something is missing. Overthinking often stems from this disconnect. When we don't know what our true purpose is, the mind falls into an endless cycle of doubts and comparisons. The subconscious mind absorbs everything we repeat to ourselves. If someone spends years believing they have no talent, that they don't deserve prosperity, or that money is hard to come by, that idea becomes part of their identity. But what if instead we start feeding different thoughts? Big changes happen when we begin to see ourselves as capable, worthy of abundance, and deserving of opportunities. After all, no one builds a prosperous life without first believing that they can. Discovering your own purpose doesn't have to be a confusing journey. One simple exercise is to answer 3 questions. What do you love to do? What are you good at? How can that help other people? When we find the intersection between these answers, we're closer to our true path. It's not just about making money. It's about living in a way that aligns with what makes sense for you. Whatever your purpose, it needs to be aligned with your daily actions. If you want to be an entrepreneur but never start a project, if you want to be a leader but avoid taking on responsibilities, if you dream of financial independence but are afraid to invest, these are all signs of a disconnect between your identity and your behavior. Change begins by transforming small habits. Read books that broaden your perspective, surround yourself with people who inspire you, and cut out anything in your routine that doesn't add value. Adjust your mindset before expecting external results. Because in the end, finding your purpose isn't about discovering something new. It's about remembering who you've always been. And to do that, you need to let go of old beliefs that no longer make sense. But how do you leave behind what limits you? That's exactly what we'll explore next. The subconscious mind is like a vault. It holds all the beliefs we've accumulated throughout our lives, whether they're useful or not. The problem is, many of these beliefs were instilled without being questioned. Money is dirty. Success only comes with sacrifice. I'm not good enough. How many of these phrases have been repeated until they became absolute truths? And the most curious part, they aren't truths. They're just mental programs running in the background. If we want prosperity, we need to rewrite that internal code. The law of attraction doesn't work just because of desire. It responds to mindset. Someone who thinks, I want to be rich, but deep down believes that money brings problems, will never achieve financial stability. That's because the mind creates resistance against what it fears. The first step to change is identifying these limiting beliefs. Ask yourself, where did this idea come from? Does it really make sense? What would happen if I thought differently? The simple act of questioning begins the mental reprogramming process. Change doesn't happen overnight, but small daily practices can speed up the process. One of these is the replacement technique. Whenever a limiting thought arises, swap it for an empowering one. Instead of "money is hard to make," think "money comes to me in unexpected ways." At first it might feel artificial, but repetition creates new neural pathways, and what was once forced becomes natural. Another way to transform your mindset is by exposing yourself to new realities. If you want more prosperity, study about it. Consume content from people who have already made it. Books like Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki or Secrets of the Millionaire Mind by T. Harv Eker teach you to think differently about money. If you want more opportunities, connect with environments and people who live that reality. Changing your mindset requires surrounding yourself with better influences, because in the end, what defines our reality isn't just external circumstances, it's the way we think about them. And when we learn to master this internal transformation, we open ourselves up to something even greater, continuous evolution. But are we really listening to the signals that life gives us? Overthinking might be a symptom of something bigger, a call to awaken. When the mind falls into a repetitive cycle of doubts, fears, and uncertainties, it's often because something inside us needs to change. But instead of seeing this process as a problem, what if we viewed it as a sign, as an invitation from the universe to evolve? The truth is, excessive thoughts don't just appear out of nowhere. They're clues about what's out of alignment in our lives, and ignoring them only prolongs the feeling of stagnation. The subconscious mind always seeks patterns. If you've had the same worries for years, it's not a coincidence. It's a cycle that needs to be broken. Have you noticed how some people always seem to face the same challenges? Endless financial problems, relationships that follow the same script, opportunities that never materialize. This happens because internally, they're still operating under the same thought patterns. To evolve, we need to change the way we think and feel about our own reality. Prosperity isn't just a matter of effort, it's a matter of alignment. When a person is on the right path, doors open more easily, not because everything got easier, but because they no longer sabotage themselves with negative beliefs. And how do we develop that self-awareness? The first step is self-observation. Throughout the day, pay attention to the thoughts that repeat the most in your mind. Do they empower you or limit you? Do they inspire you or make you doubt yourself? Just being aware of these patterns starts to change your relationship with them. Another powerful exercise is silence. Most people avoid quiet because they fear what they might find there. But it's in silence that we find answers. Set aside a few minutes a day to be without distractions. No phone, no TV, no noise. Just sit with your thoughts and observe what comes up. It might feel uncomfortable at first, but over time, this practice brings mental clarity and valuable insights into what really needs to be transformed. Because in the end, evolution isn't a destination, it's a continuous process. The more we know ourselves, the more we free ourselves from the cycles that hold us back. And when we stop overthinking and start acting consciously, everything changes. Now the question remains, are you ready to get off autopilot and take control of your mind? Now that you understand how overthinking works and how it might be sabotaging your life, the big question is, what are you going to do with this knowledge? Because knowing isn't enough if you don't apply it. You can continue being stuck in an endless cycle of doubt and insecurity, or you can take the first step to take control of your mind. The choice is yours. So let me ask you, how many opportunities have you already lost by hesitating too much? How many decisions have been left pending because you were waiting for the perfect moment? And what if, instead of overthinking, you started taking action? True transformation begins when you stop waiting and start doing. Small steps create big changes, but you have to take that first step. What did you learn today that you can start practicing right away? Which of these strategies will you try first? Write in the comments, because sharing your decision increases your commitment to change. Besides, your experience could help others who are facing the same challenge. If this content resonated with you, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. Here you'll learn more and more about how to train your mind, unlock your potential, and build a more balanced and prosperous life. So, hit that subscribe button and come along with me on this journey of evolution.